Hello, this is Max Drake. I want to talk to you about aText automation, the premium version. Now, there's a couple of little funnies happening here. I'm talking about the Microsoft ones. If you download it from the Microsoft Store, it doesn't install straight away onto you. But when you actually come to the program itself, there's a little diamond here. And if you select that diamond, it gives you a couple of options for actually purchasing the app. You can purchase it and it gives you can buy an annual subscription for $4.99, or you can buy the premium version, which is $29.99, but you can get 10 you can put it on 10 computers, but you're the only one who can actually log in on that. So the second alternative is that you can download it here from Windows, and you download a zip file that you then unzip, and there's an MS file that is actually just installs. Now, if you do the Microsoft one, you've got to use the Microsoft version for the Microsoft license that you get. If you download the ones from here, you actually, in the diamond, you get a few more options. You can actually purchase from the Windows Store, or you can actually purchase, you can purchase the version from the Windows Store, or you can purchase the ones from this store here. And but it gives you different options. But if you're using that program, that license only goes with the ones that you download from here. So it's all a little bit confusing from that point of view. Now, if you press on this one here, this will show you what it is on the Apple Store. Now, on the Apple Store, it just says aText. But if you type Windows after the aText, you then get onto the Windows bit through here that allows you to get a personal license for one user and 5 computers. So because it's based on your login, it only identifies you. So if other people, if you want to put it on somebody else's computer, they got to log in as you, which is not what you really want. The business license you can get for $14.99 for one computer, but any number of users can be on that particular computer. Or else you can get a personal license, which is for 1 year, and it's $4.99 US, and it's for one user, and you get it on for 3 computers. So there's all your different ones available for the things. The better value ones is to get the personal license. Why would you need 10 licenses? You're not going to be working on 10 different computers. So 5 licenses is the one really to go for, I suppose, the best value. And the 1 year one is the one that I'm actually trying out at this point in time. So that was just a little bit of funny. I just want to highlight that one through there. It's going to be a little bit of a long video because I want to talk about a few things through here. I want to talk about some of the premium version things that I found just be quite smart and very pleasing, and stuff that actually works for me quite well. So I'm quite wrapped with those. And then I'm going to talk about the scripting side of things, which is why I actually purchased this in the first place. And I actually had difficulty and spent a day and a half on this flipping thing trying to get the script part working, which has been quite frustrating in a way, and it ended up being a bit obvious. So the first thing that I actually wanted to highlight, first of all, is that I've got another folder called General. Now, inside General, I've got Direct, so therefore I can actually type something in there. And if we just go and look at some of the direct ones through here, it's just an N1 through there. So if I type N1, it just blasts out a bit of information through there. So I don't actually, though I've now called them expand after space with space and expand after space, no space. So the next thing is, if I come up to here and I go N1, oops, N1, nada happens. Nothing happens at all. So the thing is, if we come right at the very top through here, we are overriding the parent group. So instead of all applications, we're only on selected applications. Now, which applications are we doing? We actually select an application through here. It shows you what running ones you've got, and I've selected Notepad on this one. And you can actually go on to selected applications or add a program, and then you can go, okay, if there's only on a few programs that you actually want. So this allows me to actually do things in this program that don't conflict with anything else. So that's what I've got it set up for as a demo. This is actually for a modeling program, but I just thought I'd demo it on here. Now, one of the ones that I just want to demo through here is this one here, NZ building code. So if I type NZ, sorry, no, it's BC building code. What pops up is this. Now I can come down here and I can scroll down and I can select any one of these items through here. Double click on it, oh sorry, go OK, and then it sticks it into there. I can then come back and go BC, and I can select another aspect of the thing through here. I can come through and I can do that. Now this is using a thing called, that's F5G14, good. So what's it actually doing? Well, let's actually just go and do another one through here, and we'll go back through it. So if we just go through in the insert, this is actually a field, and if we go through the field, instead of a single line, that's a multi-select list. Now what we can do instead is have a menu, and then we're going to say the menu is NZ, just leave it as NZ again, and then we get a snippet group. Now the snippet group that we're going to do is we're going to go down to here, and we're going to go into the building codes, and you can see we've got all of those snippets that we can choose from. Now I'm going to widen this up because the 100's a bit too hard to see it, so I'm actually just going to make that 800 through there and go OK. Now I'm going to delete the original one, and then I'm going to del that through there. Now if I come into here and I go BC space, this pops through, and then I've got a list that I can come down, and then I can choose whatever one I want. Okay, boom, coming through there. So this is fantastic. If you're running out of short abbreviation keys or something like that, or you don't want to type 15 letters or something like that, what you can do is you can have them in a list, and then you can just use that pull down list and select a whole lot of groupings that you actually have for that. So I actually found that really useful. So when I'm actually doing documentation and I've got a whole load of notes going through there, and if there's a whole lot of notes what to do with specifications or things like that, I can actually put them in. So how's that structured? So this one here is expand after hitting the space and leaving the space through there. If we go into this one here, on this one here, this is type abbreviation, and bang, straight away it happens. So all we do is we select one, it types the abbreviation and puts it in there straight away. Now what we can do here straight away, now that's one thing that I do too. Now you can see here I've got a couple of conflicts. So I've got a couple of other bits of code that have those same letters, so it's just highlighting those things there. Now because I'm not typing these letters through here, these could be really complicated. So this one here could be XYZ ABC, and a whole load of other letters on the end of it, because we're never going to end up doing it. Now they shouldn't actually be conflicting with anything through there. Now here's another little lovely thing as well that I actually found on there. If you come into here, there's a thing called hotkeys. Now the hotkey says make snippets from clipboard. So I've got a letter C, and then I've got Control and Windows. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to copy that one there. I'm going to go Control C, so that's now gone to the clipboard. I now come into here and go Control, Windows and C, and it creates that note through there. So I can actually call this off as 2131 or whatever. And then I've got another item through there. So I actually found this was an absolute pleasure. So now if I come back into here and just hit that, if we come through, the last one on our line at the bottom through there is that same one there. Okay, boom. And we've just dropped it back in again. So there's that one there. And again, we didn't need to type that 231 or anything like that. So we can put really garbly sorts of things in here as the abbreviation, because we're not using the abbreviation. We just use them as a pull down list. Although if we've got ones that maybe we call on their own, we could actually just come in here and go C3, and it just comes out there. C3. No? C3? Or maybe it's C3. There we are. So it's got to be an upper. Oh, that's good. It's more keys with the things with the uppercase and lowercase. So we can put it in that way. So if there's different ways we're doing notes. Now, why this has got me excited is when you're actually trying to do text or typing text inside a little box inside a drawing program, if you mistype, it's quite tedious because you're working in these small boxes to do this. But to be able to just cut and paste this information in there really quickly is a fantastic way of doing it. And then to actually have a list to come through and do all of that. speeds up the stuff overall. Now this I've actually said is in that particular program, so therefore I can actually have keys that conflict with other ones as long as I don't use it in a different program. So what I can actually do with my other one there that has nearly all my general ones on, so if we go and look at this group, if we go and look at this, this is enabled in all applications. Well, what we can do is we can override this, so this is in all applications except selected applications. Now we can select the application, just as a demonstration, and then we could use Notepad there. We don't, because I want to do some more demonstrations through here, and I could do that. So that means that the other ones would work everywhere apart from inside that one. So again, in that one there, if I type C1, nothing happens in there, but if I come in here and type C1, I'm going to get that data through there. So this is a way of being able to suddenly saying, well, I've got a whole lot of keys that I use in those sorts of programs. So I can actually write so I can write a whole load of code snippets that I can have in Notepad++, and I can actually have in VB Code. And so they just work for them. And then you say, I don't want them in any other programs, just in those. In the other programs, I can say you can put everything in there apart from in these ones, because I'm only going to use those for code editing. And maybe that's a problem in Notepad++. It sort of crosses over on a couple of things. So I was able to quickly paste all of these in, and like there's quite a few items in there, so there's most probably 30 items. So I was able to just paste them in and just put a key in there, just as a demo to see that I could actually do that. Now I've got other little abbreviations in there, like CO, which is check on site. Now, always on notes, you'll actually have an overall dimension of the building, and you're just kind of saying it's an existing building. Just check to see that we've got the right dimension, because that's a setting out point that's quite crucial for the theme. And again, we can do big notes. So we've got an M44 space here that does that, and up here we've got an M1, which is a direct trigger. And that one's going through there. Now you see this blinky somewhere in there. There is this thing that says, instead of it trying to type it out, it'll just take it from the clipboard. So it chucks it into the clipboard and just drops it in. A lot of times that's a lot faster, especially when you've got a lot of documentation like that M44 one. It just pasted that whole thing in. So got it from clipboard and brought it in. So it didn't try typing it out individually, each of the letters all of the time. So that's just one of the things that you be aware of as far as some of the ways that you could do things. So clipboard is quite powerful as far as using the methodology of that. So that was just a demonstration of just using it in a specific program. And inside that program, there's ones that I just want to type directly. There's ones I want to put a space on, and there's ones I want to put a space on and things. And even here, I've got spaces on these ones, but the bottom ones down here, they just type the two letters and then they expand straight away. So that's where they drop in. But again, we can put anything through there because we aren't actually typing those letters through. So that's just something to be aware of, that was, I found to be rather handy to do. So you could set up a whole load of notes and things like that to make that quite productive. The next thing I want to talk about is I want to go into the scripts now. Now, one of the things I've found with the scripts, if I'm inside here and I've got an AutoHotKey script through here, and it's just X1 and X2. So I actually put my / through here and I go X1, and it says the system file cannot be identified. Now I've just got to come into here because I've got something that I want to talk about the program overall and what it's doing. The system cannot find the program specified. Now what it's actually looking for is there's this little folder here, Windows users. So inside the Windows C drive users, Drake, which is my username on this particular computer. So it's put this program, and that's another thing. If you look at app data local, you'll see this is where the program's actually installed. So down here, there's Trankai Nyam, and inside there is where the actual program's installed. So it only works for you because it's in your app data subfolder through there. So it doesn't work for anybody else because it's not in their subfolder. So just be aware of that So that's how they can make it so it only works under your login, because you can only access that part of the program. The next thing is, this is a temporary file through here. Now, what it's done through there is when it says there, the system cannot find that file. Well, there's that file. So what this does, you're suddenly thinking, well, what do you mean? There's the file. Why, I can see it, so why can't you see it? This isn't doing this. What this does when it runs this program is it takes this and it goes and saves it or copies it to this temp file through here. Now, if I click on this temp file, so it's going to trigger, it'll actually now run that, so I can actually run that program through there. Now, if we come back into there, I'm sorry, get back into the one that I actually want through there. Now, if I come back into, I'll come back into here again, and now I'm going to type /x2, which is the second script. Can't find that script either. Now, if we go back, date modified, you'll find there is a aText script there, and if I click on that one, it's now telling me something else. Hello, flingle, wongle, dangle. And the reason why that is that it's just taken the second script, AutoHotKey 2, and it's pasted that into that temporary file through there. So that's how it's running it. So the next part of this story is if we go into the scripting, we have all of these scripts. Now you can just wind them up and off they go again. This is just refreshing. And what I was doing is I was going in and pasting, finding where my Python is on my program and going and pasting that one in and finding where command.exe is and pasting in for all of that. And painful, didn't work. So once you refresh all of those, so you may need to go refresh all of those, you can save now, or else you can just close this down and it remembers all of those ones again. So it then runs those programs that it sees through those. So it should be saying, I've got the AutoHotKey, that's an AutoHotKey file, so I've associated the extension with that, so it should run that, but it's just saying I can't find that file. Now, I haven't been able to do that with the AutoHotKey one, but if I go /py, you'll see the Python one come through. I'm just going to blow this away, and if I just go -VB, the VB one comes through, and if I go what's my bat one? I've got a JS one there, so we can type a JS one, and there's a string to display in JS. And there's a P1. This is an interesting one. If I type P1 here, spacebar, oh, sorry, it's got to be backslash or forwards, backslash P1. That's the rule for those ones. It's written the hello world through there, and actually that was quite fast. A lot of the times I'm actually finding that the PowerShell ones are quite slow. So you can do so all of my other scripts seem to be working now. All of the scripts inside here, so the batch, the shell, the PowerShell, JavaScript, VB script, and Python, I haven't been able to get no. Now I think there's another one just called back no, and that is hello world, and that one there is actually a node script. So that is JavaScript, but you've then got to add this node. So if I just go into VB script, and this is what you've got to be quite careful of when you're running these scripts, that you've made sure you're in here writing some blooming code or doing something. Oops, what's happening there? Oh, I did close it down. You're typing all your stuff out through there, and you forget to just go and check what you've got at the top. What I was finding, so on that one there, that it's got to be JavaScript, and it's got to be node in there. Now, the nice thing is you can set a working directory through here. So if you click on the folder, you can go and select a directory as to where you actually want to associate that folder with. So if you're reading and writing from a file, so grabbing data from a file and pasting it into a note or something like that, then you can select your working directories. It sort of confused me, this, because you're kind of clicking on here and you type in and it lets you type, but you're suddenly thinking that doesn't make any sense. So you've got to come and select. There's not that much of a help file with this, so I've sort of been having to kind of work this out as I go. So far I've been able to do all of these other scripts, but I haven't been able to get AutoHotKey working. And the custom one is something where you're saying it's a node, it's a JS file, it's got a JS extension, but it's a node one through there. So if I just go into /NO, it's actually writing it out there because it's got those aspects about it. So I've suddenly made a decision. I just wanted to make a video on this because I had a whole lot of grief. Now, another thing with that, I can't find that file. What really seemed to be one of the big issues of that was my antivirus. Now, because and when it first triggered, and it was as obvious as hell for me, was when I actually started to run the PowerShell scripts, and it suddenly thought, no, this is a little Trojan script or something like that. I don't want it to work. So what it was doing was it was going into the antivirus settings, with blocking those off. So I actually had to make exceptions for all of those ones there. So for all of those script files, and they're only aText script, AutoHotKey, back.js, ps1, py, whatever ones you've got in there, so there'd be a back one and a VB and stuff like that. All of those ones, you've got to give them permissions to allow them to let through, because if you don't, your virus is there. So that was the one that it took me. There's nothing on the web. There's no videos on this. I found the whole thing, and there's no documentation on any of this part of the thing that I can find. So I found it very frustrating. But that's as far as I've got so far. So just remember to make sure that you've got the right script. That's the Node one that I'm doing. So that is actually JavaScript, and that has got Node in it. And I don't really understand that at this point in time, but that does it. So what actually, again, the other one that I've had on a few little ones is I'm running this bit of code and it just doesn't run at all. And an example of that is that, let's just say I'm in there and I'm running this as a batch, and then I'm going /p1, and then it throws an error when it thinks about it. Not recognizes an internal or external command or a batch file, because it's not a batch file, it's actually a PowerShell file. Now, if I go into, and I don't think I need that backdash at the end, -p1, it'll happily roar away and do what it was meant to do. So that's another thing. Some of the information regarding it isn't that clear. The other thing that I started to do is I started to suddenly think, well, I could then if I'm going to have a whole lot of scripts, how am I going to break them up so that there's no conflict between them? So a lot of the scripts, to start a script, it's got this / is the thing that kind of saying, if I hit that, it's going to come down with a list of scripts. Now, this can be irritating, because if you're just starting to write something in a letter to somebody and you hit one of those, what happened there? And then you come through and you do another one, this suddenly pops up all the time. So if your thing there, your snippet abbreviation was a dot, and then you keep on going full stop there, this thing pops up all the time. So it can be a bit distracting as far as that goes. So you may want to go into your settings and turn off that. We're going to see some information. Now, what I ended up doing was one of them, which was a little batch file, was a good one for opening a website. So I've got this one here, which just does echo off, and then it says start, and start this start this URL here. What I ended up suddenly doing, and this is something that I quite like about this is just pure batch script file, and then this one here is actually one of the scripts or snippets inside here. Now, what that one there is -p. Where's -p? There it is. It's a login. So this is actually for a WordPress site. So the first one gets me to the login site. So it opens up the web page and it opens up the login site. And because it's a WordPress site, it's going to pop up with a box, and then you've got to put your username in, and then you've got to put your password in, and then you've got to go enter on somewhere. So if we do this, I've got to pause at the beginning to allow the web page to open up and allow the window to open up. Now, the JavaScript makes it so that your cursor is sitting in the first box, which is your username. So therefore, we've got a timer to wait until the web page is opened. And so you might have to keep on modifying that and maybe making it maybe a second or 2 seconds or something like that. So that'd be 1,000, 2,000. And then it then puts the username. These are just dummy ones there. And then I've got to pause through there. Then I've got an enter key. So if we just click on that, you can see that it's actually the key is just the enter key, which says enter. That's what I accept there. Then the next one along is the tab key. So it then tabs across into the next cell, and then I can actually put in my password, and then that goes enter. And then I go tab, 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 and then that gets me to the button which says login, and then it clicks enter onto that one there, and so it does it. So combined with a bit of script and with a bit of, I suppose, a macro of description, you're able to actually just open up any web pages. So if you've got a Facebook things that you're doing, or you've got other ones that are doing, and you've got in those login where you've got the users and all of those, and don't all the way down, you can actually go through that exercise and see how many tabs you need and add them all on the end to do it. So that I quite like, of the fact that you're using 2 different methods to actually, or combining them together to actually make quite useful things through there. Now, what I was suddenly thinking through there, so what I was doing with this is I had ones, anything starting with E will be, and if I come into here, if I just type E, you see suddenly it says, which hot email do I want? Now, this I'm just playing with at this point in time, but you might actually have a group of people that you actually have. So you have 7 different groups, like you've got this team and that team and stuff, and so you need to send an email, and then there's people moving from one team to another, or there's another built team up between different people because you're doing a certain other thing. You can actually create a team of people with a whole load of emails through there and just have one key for it, and you're suddenly saying send to, or send to that one person, and then all the rest, here's that group through there. Now, I would use this method rather than using my Thunderbird email groups and stuff like that, because I don't use Thunderbird, I just use the basic stuff in it. And I find when I go in and start trying to do all of those setups all the time, I get all confused. Whereas if I'm in a program like this, I'm using it all the time. So therefore, it's easier to actually modify it into here to suddenly saying, oh yeah, go and put in 50 CCs to all of these people. So you hit the CC and hit an E2 and spits them all in. So that's just my preference way of doing it. The only problem is, as you're typing along, the sky is blue. And I think if you start with an E, it's got to be, so there's something that you can actually do, is that you've got, it's in place after delimiter. If it's after any character, anytime you type E, or E, it's going to pop up, which can be really irritating and distracting if you're just doing text. So something like that, you actually say only pop up in these sorts of descriptions, or as a delimiter or through there, or in the settings, just don't pop up at all. I know which ones they are, and if I need to go and look them up, then I can actually just open up this program here and do that. So that's a way of actually starting to break things down so that all the webs start with Z, all the emails start with E, but then there's that distraction and stuff like that. So I was going to have all of the bats starting with maybe a / or something, and then all of the PowerShells. Instead of that, you see, like if I just come in here and type / all of those come up. Now, if with the PowerShell one, I can suddenly say, well, no, I'm going to actually have that as a backward one, like that. So if I now go into there and I type a backward one, I'm only seeing the PowerShell one. So that's a way of filtering out the relevant ones that you've got. Now, another thing that I was thinking with the scripts, you know, now these are quite nice little things you can do. This little line of code through here inside, that you can do an equivalent inside a bat file, so you don't really need to do it inside PowerShell, but that's where I first saw it. This one here goes and looks into my downloads folder. Any zip file, JPEG and PNG, when you download a zip file, and there's several types of files that Windows doesn't trust. If you've got an exe file or you've got an MSI file, it doesn't seem to block them. it accepts that they're executables, and they're obviously executables. But when you unzip a file, you don't know what's inside there. So it blocks those file types. And sometimes with the images, it blocks those, and that can be a bit of a nuisance, since some programs may not like having those blocks in there. DLL files are very common things that get blocked all the time, the dynamic libraries. So what this does is it just goes into there and unblocks all the files of those sorts. So this is great. As soon as you download, you just type in /UB from anywhere, and it will then go through and just take those blocks out of there. I'm not too sure what actually happened there. I think they've all. I did them all before, and they all work fine. So there's something there. So there's some handy. So this is why you'd use some scripts in there sometimes. As I said, there's something that you can do. It's just a little productivity thing. If you know there's something like that there that works for you, just use it. You know. So here's something where you can add that. And again, the same with the web pages, opening up websites and things like that. You can use the website, but you can use the combination of opening up the website and also having a whole lot of tabs and things like that to get you through the sign-in aspect of things like that. Now, this sort of comes back to a couple of other things that I'm a bit concerned with. After I played with text expanders before, and to a certain extent, I actually had a frustration this morning, is that every time I was typing I on there, what I kept on having was two. Now, where are you? Sorry, I've got to check something here. Basic. Where did I put S2? Oh, sorry, I altered it. And I was having some trouble, and this is something that happens, and I'll have that one there, is every time I was pressing the 1, it was like I was pressing an S2, and this kept on popping up in the middle of my articles. Now, not with the image in at the bottom of that one there. But so I'd had to debug it somehow. So there's a few methods here that I want to talk of, because there's nothing more frustrating is you're right in the middle of the tree and you're writing away, and suddenly you go, and this happens in the middle of it, and then you have to go back, and it breaks your mental flow, and 2, it really disrupts what you're doing, and you have to go back and clean up your stuff. And you're suddenly thinking, well, these text expanders are actually making me less efficient in a way. There's certain keys that I shouldn't use. You know, like I ended up having one which was my first name, because I kept on finding these forms which actually they wanted your first name and your last name. So I ended up with MM and space. So and then DD and space to actually get those ones to come in, just so that I wasn't going to conflict with a lot of other things happening. So I had this problem coming through here, so I had to go back and debug it to find out where it was doing. Now, there's a few things here I want to talk about. First of all, so again, this is a sort of a hopping around, but I've been messing around with all sorts of parts of this. First of all, the synchronization. Fantastic. The thing with the sync, though, is that I've got a OneDrive, and I thought, oh, it's going up to my OneDrive and syncing up there. That's fantastic. But it wasn't. What it actually does, it syncs to the folder, your OneDrive folder on your computer. Now, I turn off my OneDrive to my folder for backup, because I find I'm right in the middle of some intense resource flipping drawing or something like that, and suddenly it decides it's going to do a backup or do a sync, and it kills my computer, and I just get so frustrated. So where I'm actually syncing it to, so it wasn't updating. It was actually only going and putting it into the folder on my computer here. So it wasn't actually doing it to a central location. So I've actually moved it to my NAS. So that's my network shared folders. So that's what that's doing there. Now the thing with the sync is it just updates everywhere. Now if you've got a bug or something, and this is what I'd actually recommend, at the beginning, especially about the first month, use backup instead, and do a daily backup and then do a backup now, because it then creates a new backup with a date. So that means if you suddenly end up with something where you've got a bit of mess going through there, you know, I can't remember how many it's actually saying now. I've got 3,734. Well, a lot of those are the dictionary ones, so we could take away. So there's most probably about 700 or something, which might be mine, that I've got in here, and the rest of them are the libraries and stuff like that. So how do you figure out which one was actually giving you grief? So a lot of the times it's worth just backing this up, going back a day or 2 days, some of that, well, I didn't have the problem then, and just checking from there. So it's in some ways it might be going backwards, but it's a sort of thing, if you use it effectively and you get really used to it, it can be really productive. If you've got it and it's buggering up all the time, it is one of the most frustrating things. Another thing that you can do in here is this has got special searches already set up. So it's got the most recent use. So if it's something happened in the last hour, that's something. But you see, the thing is, you might not have been typing in the last hour. So that particular poor keystroke or what's triggering it off may have actually been written 2 days ago. But you've only just started to type, or you've typed a certain letter in a certain way, such that it's actually caused that to actually occur. So it's not necessarily that it's happened recently, but if you suddenly find you've been doing some typing and it has happened recently, you can say, what were the most recently used ones? And you can go and track which ones. What were the most recently created? Most used, least used, never used. Oh, what's never used? Oh. And you can do some of the other ones. The searches, like if I go AT hash, and it's slow to come up with anything really. I haven't found. I'm still getting used to this search thing. I don't think it's that good. The other one that I did find quite useful is let's just kill out of the search there and go back. Oh, we can search abbreviation. We can search by. Oh, that's nice. I didn't realise we can do that. Search by abbreviation 12. Enter. Oh, there we are. We've got the 12 and there's a G12 through there. Oh, good. Anyway, the other way that I actually found quite good is that if you do the tags through here, you've got this cloud. So it says, oh, look, I've got an awful lot of plain ones. I've got a lot of, and it's showing you which ones are the plain and which ones are the type. So that's another nice way of actually doing some searching through there. So I did find that quite useful. I don't know where, I hadn't seen that before. That's quite handy. Through there. Now, the other thing I do want to talk about through there, so this is one of the things, and this is a handy little tool to have, is you might suddenly find that, you know, having all of your things in one group, trying to debug it or trying to isolate where that problem is might be very time consuming. So a lot of times it might be better to have a whole lot of groups, and then you can isolate them off. And an easy way to isolate them off is to do this, delete. And then you can just do sync, and then load the data from the sync location, and it's just come back again. So that's one way that you can do it. You can get rid of that one and see if that tool's still actually happening. So that's a way of refining if things are getting lost. Now, along with that, another method of actually doing it is that you can do this as well. I'm not too sure if it's on the free version. In fact, I should just check on my other. I haven't got it up and running at this point. There I have. Let's just see. No, you can do it on this one. So you can export selected items. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export the whole of that max group, and I'm going to do that and just give it and I'm just going to use this one. I think it's D. No, it isn't. It's D2. D2. No, it's not doing it. What do I use it? Okay, I'll just have to do it with another way. I put a date on it. Oh, sorry. Now, what I wanted to do, well, actually, let's just go in there and search abbreviations, and I want to start with a D. And then go enter. And for file names, D1, it is D1. D1. No. Oh, this is this one here. Sorry, let me just change that to D2. TM. Now, if I do that D1, D1, D1. Oh, that's why I want it there. No, I can't remember why I had it there. So it's D1 space. This is the problem there. So now there's something wrong with that as well. So I can, anyway, coming back to it, I can now save this basic. So you can save sub areas of what you actually want. Don't see many in there. So if it is this one here, so the expand after pressing of the max one, I can actually go through on there, right hand click. I can export selected items to a selected location. I'm keeping them in here, and then I can actually just say that's in the max folder, just so that I know where that one is, and then I can do the D1 space, and then it comes through that. Now I can save that as an aText, or I can save it as a CSV file. So we're going to save that as a CSV file, and now we're going to look at it as a CSV file through here. So if we actually go and find that file, we'll just use this one here. Where is it? Oh, it's here, I think. Back onto here. If we look at what's in there, here's our keys that we've actually got on a lot of these ones. I don't know why there isn't that one at the top. But this is actually just a subgroup of the thing. I think this is expand after pressing space or enter. And these are the ones that are, so this is the title one. So this is the group header, expand. So that's the one which actually says that. Now all of these have a GUID. Now this is the thing. On this one here, the rain in Spain falls mainly the thing. This is going and calling other little snippets or macro bits and stuff like that. So it's actually given them a GUID. Now what is a GUID? A GUID is a global unique identifier. So it creates a whole string of numbers that it shouldn't be able to replicate anywhere else. So it's just in a database, and it just calls off these other numbers, and it knows it's going to get the exact thing back from what it is. So attached to that GUID is all of this information through here. So when I alter it, it then just comes through and does the other thing that it actually wants. So it's just linking things through in a database, and that's all it's doing. So and sorry, that's another thing that I just wanted to go back to the script things on. So so that GUID there is, so you can actually see how they structure. So let me just finish that point there. So the point of this one here is that you can actually start looking at all of the shortcut keys that you're using to see the abbreviations and see if they make sense. And it's one of those things to actually get them. If you're going to end up with a whole massive amount of them, you're going to end up having to look at different refinements. Or what you can actually say is, look, I'm not very good at doing these spelling things. I'm going to have a 2-letter and then a 3-letter and then a 4-letter, or a 4-letter and a number, or something like that. And you do it in a way so that it doesn't conflict with other things. The other thing that you can actually do is that you can have less of these and then more lists. So every time you hit one, you pull it down. Now, that's something that I do want to explore later, is where I was doing that list and it came down, is maybe you can just put a number into there, and you can pick a number, and then it just goes and grabs that particular item, and say it's the fourth one down in that row, and goes and picks it and flicks it in there for you, which might be a quicker way of doing it. So I don't know if there's other methods of combining things together to actually make things happen. So I have that input box to allow that to occur. So what you can start doing is to try and find some rationale that'll actually work with you to actually get substructures down on here. Now, this is the one which is just the text expander on pressing space or enter. So I should be looking at all of them, and the other ones that I'm using for the scripts and the different scripts and all of those, just to see if I can find some sort of rationale that actually works. And the other thing that I'm always looking for is what's near my left hand. I'd much prefer to tap a key 4 times and put an X on the end of it or something like that, rather than reach across the keyboard to try and find an awkward keystroke or something. So you've got to find a rationale that works for you. And it's one of those, I've walked away from this sort of thing a couple of times because it's just the debugging has been so painful. But this allows you to actually self-contain things along the way, such that you can put all the scripts in one place, all the things somewhere else, or put all the things somewhere else, or you can structure them by the programs that are using them and stuff like that, so that you can then quickly move between. You can quickly debug when you've done something that ends up being nasty and disruptive. So right in the middle of a text, you've got something like an MM. And that's one of the issues that we actually have on this, is that, you see, it might not be calling it, if this is an MD, so you'd actually have something and right in the middle of there's an MD, and you're suddenly thinking, that's fine, I know where that one's coming from. But you might actually have that snippet inside another snippet that's doing something very simple, but it's causing that disruption. So this main snippet may not be the one that's actually causing the problem. It might be another one. So that's why some of the debug stuff doesn't work. And so that's why to a certain extent you want to create daily backups to a location that you can actually do them. And the other thing that you actually also want to do is that you want to be able to break things down so that you can go and see that you're developing them and stuff, and so that also if you're making a whole new group of stuff, that you can do it. Now, from my point of view, I'm dead keen on doing a lot of this because I'm finding that my typing is getting worse and worse, and so I do find it useful. Now, sorry, to go back to the other point I wanted to make through here to do with the scripts. So there's only one aText script 3Y. The other thing that I did when this was all buggy as well is that you can just blow these away. So we just delete those, and the first time we try and run that script again, so we're just going to go /py, and it's going to run it there, and so it's actually running that script inside here. Very nice of you. We'll actually find, if we go back into here, into that directory again, that it's there. So what the program is doing, if we go back and look at the A key again, with the scripts, from what I can actually ascertain through here, with the script languages through here, is that it's going to say, I've got a script language here, go to that temporary location there and run that file with the extension .bat, with the extension .sh, with the extension .vbs. So this executable program or executable app is just looking in one location for that information. So that's what it's doing. It's not actually reading any of this information in here. That is just getting copied across to that file. So when you run that script, it's pasting that script into there. Is then that code is then suddenly saying associate that program with that exe program for Python, or that JavaScript theobob, or that shell program associated with that batch file, that little file there, and action it. And then it's run that script and it's sending it, and depending on where your cursor is, that's what's saying what active window you have. So if I go -VB, thinking about it now, but then it'll do something in a minute. And there's hello from the VB script. It seems to have jumped somewhere else and done some weird stuff. I'm not too sure with that. Again, I've got my video on, and that sort of takes up a lot of resources, so it's maybe being a little bit erratic here. What I was trying to demonstrate there was the fact that this is how that's working. So it's not running the script. So this thing here is when I'm going what was it, X1, and it's saying I can't find the file. It's saying my program cannot associate with that text script file just there at this point in time. So that's the problem at this point in time. You see that's written, I've just written a VB1, so there's a VB1 there, and that's the thing. So that's just a temporary file that it puts the stuff in, and then it runs it from that particular location. So all in all, you know, I'm happy and I'm sad. I'm happy because and another little thing that I ended up doing, which was another little script that I just want to give you a demonstration on. And again, this is sort of good and bad in a way, and it's a new snippet that we're going to put into here. And something that, I've sort of rant on about this a bit, but never mind. and we just call this TTT. No, we won't, because if there's a TT somewhere else, we'll go YUI. What we can do, one of the things that I actually found, I was quite excited with this time variable, is that, and I've talked about it in other videos through here, and I'll come out of there for this point in time, and I just do this Control-Shift-X. And what this does, this took me a little while to actually write in a script format, is this is taking tomorrow's day. Now, this is a very good example of tomorrow's day, because today is the 30th, so if you did another count, instead of being the 31st of November, it knows that it's moving into December. So this is the thing, and then we're going from level 2, and this is the head of my article, which I've got a COVID diary that I actually run. So first thing I'm doing is I'm doing tomorrow's date. Now, to do that in AutoHotKey script, what I ended up having to do was I actually had to get the date format. I had to convert it into UTF, so Unix time. And then I actually had to add so many thousand seconds onto it, which was a day's worth. And then I had to convert it back so that I could display it in this format as a thing. So that would take care of the fact that when I ended up with the 30th of November, it didn't go on to the 31st and 32nd and 34th of November. So that's what I did through there. So when I came into here, there's some preset formats through here, so I can do date and time. So we're going to take the date there, the 30th of November, all very good. Add it in English. We're going to call this tomorrow. We can add a function called shift. So we can shift the year by a year, up or down a year, or 50 years. So we can say 50 years in the future, plus, down, so it's not minus. And we can say, and the day is going to be the next day along. And now we're going to go, okay. So now if I just use that YUI, there it's coming through. Oh, and it's putting a little smiley through there. Oh! Now this is one of the problems. It's not quite finishing it off correctly. It's not quite correct. There seems to be a little bit of a bug in here. So, and my smiley face is colon and D, and that's what gives a smile. So somewhere along the line, colon ended up in that. So, but what I find really interesting is something that took me half a day to write a script to actually get this to actually work. Almost 3/4 of the work is done straight away in 5 seconds. You know, it's the fact that there's a bit of a bug in it, you know, I'll send that through to them, and so to get fixed. So I found that, so that was 2 things. Now, again, the documentation, there isn't any emailing them about the problem that I was having with the fact that this is not working at all as far as the X1. I'm just getting this system that no replies at all from them at all. So I suppose for $5 you get what you get, and I in fact think it's fantastic value for that, for what it can actually do. As I said, the reason I moved on to this on my first one was I wanted reliability. Now, from the basic stuff, absolutely no fault. On some of these more complicated ones, well, it's got a bit buggy with the things. And this is only for the more complicated ones. For the standard today ones, like I think it's D1 I've got there, that works perfectly. No problem at all with any of that. So this allows me to actually code in a lot of the scripts now. So I'm very excited about that. So I can start playing with scripts. So this is really good from the point of view of I can just put little things in here and just have little productivity script to do things, you know. One of them that I found, I did have somewhere else, but I obviously deleted the file somewhere along the line, was the unblocking all the zip files. And I think I might take out the JPEG and the PNG. I don't think it affects me with any of those. So, but there might be another type of file that I might need to do some different ones through there. I could have written that in batch. I decided to do it there. But as I said, one of the things that suddenly reared its ugly head, and I thought, oh yes, I remember this, was the debugging. So although I'm syncing at this point in time between two computers, and I'm syncing between the two computers because I'm basically playing around with them, when I'm actually confident that I've got a lot of the things that I want, what I'm going to be doing is identifying the ones that I do find useful and I do want to use quite a lot. And then I'm most probably going to end up creating maybe another basic one, or keeping all of the ones in the basic ones that I want, or saving that and then just blowing away the ones I don't want, and then just kind of copying that across to somewhere else so that I can bring it in. So again, from the point of view, if I actually sent that other one out there, I can actually bring that one there back in again on its own. So if I just get now, I should actually have two dictionaries, yes. So there's a nice thing. It doesn't overwrite the original one. It just makes another copy of the thing. So if you've got two of them, you suddenly think, well, actually, I've updated, or the first one's buggy, you know, you just delete it. Boom, there, that one's gone. And then you can put it back into the position. So because of the way that this sort of expands down, you know, and you're looking for something, I find having them as close to the top as possible means that you can go in and edit them quite a lot easier. Because I do find this cursor thing, you've got to hover over it a bit before it becomes thick enough so that you can use it and drag it. And I don't think my Control Alt, no. I've got a little script that does, it's not doing it in there either. No, I think it's only in here, is that I can use to the, Jesus, it's not working anywhere. Usually Control and Alt. I better check and see if my hotkeys are all up there. They're all up there. Okay, well, it isn't this. That's supposed to go to the beginning and end of the file, but it doesn't seem to be doing that a lot. So I hope you found that interesting. As I said, there doesn't seem to be too much documentation on this, and it's frustrating because I think that the scripts in here are seriously, you know, from the one thing that I haven't worked on, and I actually need to do another video on this afterwards, and again, it's still in quite a messy format because I'm just adding things and trying an idea out here and there and doing some stuff, is that I want to start being able to pull things from files. So therefore I can actually have a whole lot of snippets in files, or a whole lot of text in maybe multiple files, such that I can pull them up and then do something with them, even if they're just pulling them up into this format, such that I can actually just cut and paste them into a snippet. But if there's a quick way of actually finding a methodology with one of these variable fields or something, such that I can yank things in and do things with it, it'll be a nice workaround to actually speed up some nice workflows, because that is really, you almost want a special sandbox area such that you've got this templated up, and then you can actually just specifically have maybe 5 copies of all of the basic ones, the ones which automatically trigger, the ones which you need to put a space on, and the ones which you don't need to put a space on, or maybe ones with scripts or something like that. So a basic templating one, and then you can just copy it across and then set it up for a specific task that you may have. So you might suddenly saying, oh, I'm doing a massive amount of notes, or I'm doing a lot of mail outs, or I'm doing a lot of things, or something like that. I don't need to do the mail merge, or I need to do this or that or the other. And so you can just automate that task with a whole lot of either, you know, inserting snippets within snippets within snippets within snippets, which is a one way of doing things. And in fact, I wonder if I can go into there. What happens? No, you see, I actually have to put in a specific snippet. No, it's only letting me do one at a time. But again, if I can actually iterate some of those things, there might be a way of actually ending up with an even speedier productivity. The other thing is, it's quite a stable program. I've been crashing it and smashing it and doing all sorts of things and fiddling in the back end and going in and deleting files up the back here and doing stuff. and it seems to be quite comfortable in all of in all of its use through there. So yeah, I think I'm getting a lot of value. Well, I actually haven't done anything directly productive at this point in time. I'm more playing with it, but I can definitely see opportunities through there for the tool. And again, I think that it seems to be, if you see at the bottom, I think there's a list of what they're thinking of adding later on. So there will be updates that you require. And I think those updates you actually get if you pay for the license. You get the update for free as you go along. So if he releases one in the middle of the year or something, you can get those. My aim at this point in time is really to work on a couple of areas. One is to start looking at my dictionaries. Those ones there, leave them as they are, start building up my ones, maybe build up 2 lots or 3 lots of dictionaries, as far as I might actually have a technical one that I can actually bring in and use. Because to a certain extent, I might want a general one for if I'm actually just writing posts and things like that. And then the other thing that I want to do is to start seeing if I can actually get filtered ones, so that I can actually have one specific to maybe just doing my writing for my blogs and things like that, so that I can actually just have a whole load of keys that are associated with that particular program. And I'm not too sure whether I can actually do that based on, I think as far as can I actually choose Firefox. I've got no. Firefox, so I can actually have one specific to Firefox, and I can actually test if I can actually do a whole lot of things that just work with that. So I'm finding it difficult finding the information about it, but when I've got anything running, it runs well. With the coding and stuff like that, I appreciate there's going to be some bugginess, and also because I'm sort of been playing with a couple of programs recently. Mainly I've been doing AutoHotKey, so I've got to get my head back around using maybe VB scripts and the other ones, and start looking at useful scripts on a lot of those ones, and maybe looking at more efficient ways of doing things, and seeing if I can use another one that might be handy is to do maybe use a bit of Python. And I don't know how Python will be, whether within Python you can actually call the libraries across. So that'll be interesting to see whether I can actually pip across something and call in or have that on the computer and for it to find it. So most probably it doesn't, so it's most probably only going to let you do some simplistic coding. And if that's as far as it goes, then that's fine, because if you're going to do something a little bit more grunty, maybe there's a better method of doing that. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found that of interest. A little bit longer. It's just I want to cover all of that at this point in time so that I can put it down and move on to the next part of what I'm doing. I could have broken this up into 3 separate videos and more focused, but I just suddenly thought there's nothing out there at this point in time about the script side of things. And so I hope that's been of interest. If you found it useful, please give a thumbs up. If not, I'll pan your heart. Thank you very much for watching.